and welcome to the show. We start this week's Failrace episode on GTA 5 with Racing Pro getting incredibly unlucky. I mean, there's nothing you can really do about that one. Just got the lead of the race, minding their own business, get absolutely wiped out by a car that was having its own accident. So there's contact ahead. It sort of launches off the hill and off the wall and flies across. I mean, there's nothing the red car can do at that point. It is soared across the track and got into the door of the leader. Yeah, that is desperately unlucky. R10 Blue is up next on GTA 5. They are minding their own business, driving around the city. Where, I mean, the contact at the junction, understandable. The front flip, I'm a bit confused about. I'm actually not quite sure what causes this car to front flip. I mean, I tried to slow it down. I mean, I've had plenty of crashes like this. You get T-boned, but it's a really strange how it ended up doing a front flip. It's a spectacular crash, nevertheless, and relatively well parked on the landing, all things considered. But yeah, I'm not quite sure what caused it to front flip rather than just sort of spin around or something, but there we go. SD is up next on GT5. Now, they're playing around, they're messing about, crashing into a motorhome that then decides it's had enough and wants to do a kickflip. Again, this is another one. I'm not quite sure how of it. So, you know, bullying the journey with a truck is funny, and, you know, fair enough. That makes sense. So, yeah, as the truck kind of comes back down, I guess actually I do know when you're riding on board with this, it kind of pushes down on the back of it that causes it to suddenly do the kickflip, which is, you know, quite impressive. Hippie Slayer up next on GT5. Now, they're in one of the random races. Scramjet is good. Transformation, not so good. And landing, it's well landed, it's just not in a helpful place. That section always difficult to use a scramjet on because you want to use the rockets but you don't want to overshoot the checkpoint. That's a different problem to end up having. Rowan Arctic Fox up next on Far Cry is a very colourful vehicle. Christ, it is an incredibly colourful vehicle. But either way, they want to bail out to go do a mission they spot along the side, and the game doesn't really know quite what to do with the vehicle. Because the player has bailed and they have their companion or whatever in the vehicle. It just freaks out and decides it's going to roll around until the AI is sort of unceremoniously dumped out of it. Parzival up next on Cyberpunk. The bikes are having issues again. This time it's not Pan Am phasing through stuff and causing chaos. Instead, it's just a bike that's had enough of, well, being a bike. The player is, you know, being sensible, doing their mission, following these tracks, where bike all of a sudden decides, nope, you know what, I'm going to throw you off, and that's that. And the bike seems to have been gone as well. Yeah, just sometimes bikes have had enough of your shenanigans. We're on to Need for Speed Payback for our next one, trying to get away from the police, as you do. Turns out the Failrace Police Department have been practicing. They have got more effective. They managed to, first of all, pile drive into the side of the car. They then managed to bounce it around to the point where none of its wheels are on the ground. And funnily enough, if you are stuck with all your wheels in the air on the bonnet of the police car, yep, you are going to get caught. So the Failrace Police Department being very effective. Mwendo the Cheetah on Microsoft Flight Sim. Now, I don't know anything about planes. I don't know anything about flying, particularly. I do think it's not supposed to be going backwards. I'm not quite sure how said aircraft has ended up going backwards in all of this. Don't think planes have a reverse when they're in the air, or they certainly will have issues because, you know, air's supposed to go over them one. I mean, I guess you'd spin the propeller the other way round, but yeah, there would be issues, many issues going on. It flies for a while in reverse until it eventually loses control and comes tumbling down. But yeah, it's definitely not the ideal way to go. We move on to Assetto Corsa next. I can't say I really know much about this game other than, well, this vehicle goes very quickly when things go wrong. It spins out and then just physics decides it's had enough and you should go 800 miles an hour off to the side. Or maybe 1,000 miles an hour up into the air. Speedy Man Charles on Gran Turismo 7. I mean, this is always going to make an appearance at some point. I also love how when you pause the game, the party bus just appears in shot at some point. Yeah, Gran Turismo 7 had a bizarre bug. I don't know whether it's been fixed or not yet, where the Volkswagen, with some specific settings, would do strange things, including launching itself into the air, launching itself into rolls. I mean, I have seen around some even wackier things than this, but yeah, the bus has some problems, and it goes very fast, and it It flies through the air, definitely working as intended right there. A cool bloke up next on Gran Turismo 7, not with a party bus going to space. No, this is with a Fiat 500, getting things wrong and going for a very big roll. The initial roll, understandable. I don't know what it hit to send it flying up into the air. Not as high as the Volkswagen, but still a mighty impressive tumble for the Fiat. We have RGP Nitro up next on Forza Motorsport. Now, they are loading in to a race, and everything is relatively straightforward. You know, what could go wrong? What could go wrong with loading in and starting a race? Well, what could go wrong is if the game decides it needs to start another car underneath you. That's less than helpful. That does make things rather difficult when you suddenly... I mean, you can carry on, but yeah. Farming Simulator 22 up next, with a player not paying attention. Busy looking at a modded tractor they had installed, and, well, it turns out, in the world of Farming Simulator, tractor versus car, and I mean, this is a big beast of a tractor versus normal civilian traffic car. Traffic car has won. Traffic car has won that quite convincingly. That tractor flew surprisingly well. Lame Roadster up next on grid with I think this is an AI Formula 1 car going for the most spectacular of overtakes. It actually lands and carries on. That is 2 positions gained while upside down in a Formula 1 car. So yeah, gets it. I say gets it a little bit wrong going over a crest. Just gets it enough to lift up. But yeah, the landing is spectacular. Gordon Fan up next on F1 Manager. And, well, Haas have gone quite extreme on the weight loss. You know, they're trying to get some weight out of their cars, and it's gone weird. It's gone very strange. Not quite sure how this has occurred. The model is obviously just not loading properly. In all of this. See, depending on where you are, where the camera is, occasionally more of it loads. So you sometimes get the front wing, the headrest, the rear wing. But yeah, that is just very bizarre. It's just, there it almost looks normal, and then it's gone back to being very not normal again. So yeah, it's an extreme effort from Haas. I think that car might be underweight at the end of the race. It's quite possible. Jackal up next on Assetto Corsa is doing a race with some more Formula 1 cars here at Spa. Heading up towards the final corner. It's a good overtake to get past. Up ahead, however, there would be shenanigans. The Red Bull hits a curb, and the Red Bull falls over and wipes out a Mercedes and whatever else. I think causes all manner of chaos to go on behind. It's a nice way to make up some positions. You know, you can't complain when you get some tumbling cars. I mean, we've got to have some good old will it roll curbs. Dragon Hunter on Assetto Corsa is finding out the same thing. That's is this Sandown? Is that what this circuit is? Australian circuit. I think that's what it's called. It's partially slipped my mind. Either way, yeah, that is a big curb, and it hit a bit too hard with the Volvo. Doesn't take much through that section to get things wrong, and now the Volvo has, of course, ended up out of bounds. You're not really supposed to be out here with your cars. Yeah, the catch fence did not really quite do its job. I mean, this from a third-person perspective. But yeah, it's a big curb, it's hit hard, and sure enough, over goes the Volvo. The catch fence having no hitbox. I guess they weren't expecting cars to be rolling over that particular section. Night Rose up next on Ultima Blister 2 gets things wrong in the fog, and the game decides to rectify that by pinging cars around randomly. Interlocking wheels with open wheelers does tend to cause problems, although one of them doesn't want to particularly get back onto its wheels. We've seen it on Project Cars plenty of times, but yeah, it will do it on Ultima Blister 2 as well. So yeah, player just misses their brakes, clonks the car ahead, and physics gets all sorts of confused as the wheels start to mash together, and 2 AIs end up stuck upside down. The player gets surprisingly well out of it. That fog is also awful. I'm not even sure what track that was at. Tenacious Tesseract up next on Assetto Corsa. I mean, this is with some very, 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 old school Grand Prix cars racing here. Someone gone wide and hit the wall, and a car further back is going for an even bigger tumble down the road. The red car got away with it. The orange machine did not, and that has caused a big old crash. And there's a lot of silly horns as well. Yeah, that's Not the line you want. That's not the line you want. Could have been worse, though, to be fair, on the grand scheme of crashes on Assetto Corsa. Local acting weirdo is on Assetto Corsa, and Rexy goes for a flight. The Porsche was not enjoying Indy, apparently, and under braking just decided it had had enough of driving around, and the wheels got sort of folded under, so you're not going to be able to move. Yeah, and no idea really what caused it to go. Obviously, there's something in the track interacted badly with the car, and it just got spat around because it wasn't the only one. And that is the other one. Is it Roxy? I can't remember the names of these silly cars. Either way, very similar sort of thing, driving along. This time, though, it actually kind of flips under and twists around. I think it's actually a bit more of a violent crash for the pink car because it's still going and twisting. Yeah, that's both of those Porsches eliminated from all of this. RC Cookie is the next on Richard Burns' Rally. You know, an absolutely wonderful rally game. They are, you know, racing their way through a stage as you would be expecting, getting themselves slowed down, behaving, everything going fairly well. They have to go through a river, a bit more of a drop than they realise, and the bounce on the landing sends the Audi over. Unfortunately, it couldn't quite land on its wheels and carry on. It's quite a drop down through that water splash, and I think as the back of the car hit the sort of exit for it, it's just enough to ping it up, flip it over, and yeah, that's going to, funnily enough, ruin your day. Although it's not as silly a crash as Scotty would have on BeamNG Drive. So, again, we are doing a rally. This is with an automation-made car, by the looks of it. Very, very high-speed jump coming up here. The car launched across it, doesn't quite go far enough, and the game decides to fling it back. Now, this is something I've seen it happen, never to this extent with automation cars, where bits of body or something gets caught on terrain and kind of gets flung back the way it's come. But this is one of the most extreme examples I have come across. It launches, it lands, clips sort of the back of the car, and then is just immediately flushed. No jump for you. Go back where you came from, over there. And there we go. I mean, being an automation car, it held up surprisingly well to that. It was a big shunt, but held up surprisingly well. But yeah, there's just no jump for you. Bella is up next on Beam. They are up against the police. They do. I think it's one of the most wanted chases. They've got a big off-roader. I think they were going to go and bump the Sunburst, but there was just a little bit more of a jump there than they realised, and the Roma has now car-hatted the Sunburst. They do, though, manage to get it off the vehicle. Of course, had they been stuck on that roof and not been able to get the wheels to touch, you know, anywhere, they were going to get, you got caught. So yeah, they did at least get away. Slayer up next on Beam, also doing the most wanted chases, trying to get away with the Pigeon. Didn't realise the police would go into the tunnel. It's a bit academic, though, because the Pigeon gets things wrong, loops around and gets stuck on a pipe. I mean, the police cars are hilarious crashing into each other, but it's a hell of a parking spot. Another one of those. You couldn't do it if you tried. Likewise with this one. Pezza is the final clip for today, also on Beam. Now, they are messing about with a vehicle. There is traffic about, and they're weaving through the traffic, and there's not quite a big enough gap. They clip the bits of traffic, wreck the car. Now, that happens. That's Beam for you. The unusual bit is as they come to a stop, the wheel bounces and lands perfectly in the passenger footwell. It's just glorious. It reminds me, I would love to put a clip in here. I can't because of copyright. The Well-Behaved Tyre from V8 Supercars. If you haven't seen it before, go and I might even put a link to it in the description if I remember. It reminds me so much of that. It's just glorious. It is just incredibly well timed. But there we go. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching. And until next time, goodbye.